How's it going, guys? I'm gonna jump straight into this video. My name is John Fernandez. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a photographer and filmmaker based out of New York City. But in today's POV street photography video, I am actually in Seattle. I had the opportunity and blessing to shoot at HCS World Championship in Seattle. If you don't know, that's a Halo Esports Championship event. I was shooting for Native Gaming, doing photos for them, and it was overall a fantastic experience. But the event was a weekend event, so I was able to arrive a day early and leave a day later and do some street photography around Seattle. This is my first time in Seattle, and I absolutely loved it for the most part. And I think the photos that I got in this video are some of my favorite photos I've ever taken. Not all of them, but some of them, and I'll definitely point them out. So I'm going to do a voiceover for this video, and like with all my other POV videos, I am shooting on a GoPro Hero Session, so it's not the best quality GoPro, and I have it mounted to my camera, so I sort of do my best to make it work. But I know it's a long one, so sit back, relax, and I'm gonna do my best not to talk too much, but just kind of give some info on what I'm thinking when I'm taking these photos. And if you want to 2x speed this and just look at the photos, that's totally cool as well. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. So for this shot, I waited around for a while. Normally I hate waiting for photos to happen, but here I waited and I was able to capture this guy going into the store. And again, here I am just warming up, and this is a really good warm-up image for me personally. So overall, pretty happy with it. I then made it my way to this location where there's this really cool water feature, and I was just kind of getting some basic frames with a higher shutter speed, kind of stopping the water and framing people up. But then I decided to experiment a little bit and lower my shutter speed and do some handheld long exposures, and really happy with how these images look. This photo here reminds me of, I'll put her on the screen, but this street photographer called Olga, who I absolutely love her work. Overall, really happy with how that shot came out, just because it's very experimental for me. So now I've made my way to Pike's Market, or Pike's Place Market, and at first I was a little overwhelmed, and so I took this photo when I first got there. Right now I'm shooting on the 15-35 RF 2.8, but I ended up switching lenses a couple times before deciding what I wanted to go with, and I ended up going with just my trusty 35mm, and this is inside the actual Pike's Place Market, which obviously there's a lot of people, but I was able to capture some decent frames. Here I just kind of see this neon sign, and again, I tend not to wait for images like this. I tend to like to really just run around and shoot what I see as it happens, not sort of wait like I'm doing here. But I waited and was able to come away with a couple of decent images. It was really dark in here, and so the way I had to edit it was definitely interesting. But overall, like those couple of images, and really the vibe inside of this Pike's Place Market is really cool. It is very touristy, obviously, but it was really nice to kind of walk around, see everything that's going on, see all the different vendors and talk to people, and it was just overall, a pretty cool place to kind of see. I walk up to this neon sign that says breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and something, and sort of messing around with this frame. I really liked the colors and then the silhouettes I was getting from inside the restaurant, and then I decided, what, this is actually a really good shot. So I stepped back a little bit to kind of get the horizontal shot, and I cropped them at 16:9, and I'm really happy with how this looks. It sort of reminds me of Cinestill 100T, which is one of my favorite film stocks. I don't shoot film, but whenever I do see that film stock, I really enjoy it. And then sort of that edit sort of reminded me of that a little bit. And I'm just continuing my trek through Pike's Place Market, sort of taking in all of the sounds and smells and all of that. And I see this guy working on this red lift against this green sort of glass frame window. And I actually, for some reason, really like this shot. I love that this guy ends up looking back at me. And I love that his, other guy is looking up at him. And I just think it's a cool frame with really nice colors. And I've made my way to this sort of like outdoor area, and the shooting conditions this day, by the way, were a little challenging because not only was it really cloudy, but it was also really smoky, which, by the way, I do love this shot because of the colors and the people and everyone sort of eating and interacting. I just thought it was interesting. But yeah, as you can tell from here, it was really cloudy, but it was also really smoky from these like forest fires that were going on. So it really made for interesting, like diffused lighting in a lot of situations. But then if you know my shooting style, I tend to like shooting really high contrast, like architecture situations. So it definitely felt like a challenge this day, and I definitely learned a lot. But yeah, so I was here shooting, still Pike's Place Market, but shooting the waterfront there, and I was just having a difficult time getting anything that kind of looked good. And then coming up, this is one of those situations where I'm just trying to do things a little differently than everyone else. Just trying to be a little bit more creative and take that extra step. But this is obviously a very popular sign that a lot of photographers and street photographers shoot. So instead of just shooting the sign itself, I was kind of looking for reflections. So I got this one reflection off this guy's back windshield. Pretty cool. I like the texture from the windshield and all of that. And then I sort of switched to the other car in a little bit and just kind of framed up a shot. And this happened so quick that this lady with red hair walked by that you'll see in a second. So it's actually a little out of focus, but I kind of don't care. I think it actually works really well. I got other images here with people that were better focused, but because she had red glasses and red hair, I think it came together well. And of course, you can't go to Pike's Place Market without going to the gum wall, which I decided to do here. But, there wasn't really much to take photos of except gum, which is pretty nasty. So I decided just to take a selfie since I'm, here traveling alone this day. So got the selfie at the gum wall, like the frame, like the colors, pretty cool. And again, I hate waiting around for images, but sometimes it does work out. And as you can see here, I'm sort of touching my beard, debating whether I want to do this, but there is a sort of sky bridge between buildings, and the lighting, again, was really cool. And I really wanted somebody to walk by this frame. And this was obviously sped up, but I ended up waiting a solid like 8 minutes for this to happen. And finally, someone did walk by, and I was able to frame them and get to this shot, which is pretty cool. It's not my favorite shot I've taken, but a lot of people actually did like that shot, and I appreciated that they did. And so that was actually the end of day one of my street photography, in Seattle. This is now day two. This is after the weekend event. I'm already checked out of my hotel, and I have a few hours before I have to go to the airport. And here in this shot, again, just kind of warming up for the day. Ended up getting a reflection shot of this, bar, restaurant place. Nothing too fancy, but still kind of cool. And I know, people love reflection shots, even if they're basic like this. So the theme for this day, and if you follow me on Twitter, you would have seen these photos and potentially also on Instagram, but the theme for this day ended up being the Space Needle. So I walked over to the Space Needle and quickly realized I don't want to just take basic photos. So I was taking a photo of the Space Needle, turned around, and I see this reflection in this glass like building. And I was like, no, let me focus today on getting shots of the Space Needle that are just a little bit more creative and, you know, not as basic like I was saying other photographers, you know, or I see other photographers get. So just try to get more creative. I took a lot of shots in this, and I specifically liked this one because it's just a little piece of the Space Needle, the circles. I don't know, I just thought it was interesting. I think that glass building sort of echoes the design of the Space Needle, so I wanted to show that. Continuing on the theme of shooting the Space Needle in an interesting way, sort of saw this big puddle in a parking lot nearby, and I spent a lot of time trying to get the proper shot of the Space Needle here. And so I think I speed up this clip a little bit because I spent a solid, like 10 minutes trying to, you know, sort of get this shot to work. I'm literally just walking around this parking lot. People think I'm crazy. But yeah, just trying to find the best shot. And then I see this cool, you know, trash can thing, whatever, with graffiti. Ended up framing it with this puddle instead and sort of getting both of them in the shot. And then I just, you know, I got that shot, walked away, and then I see another puddle. And so I decided to shoot this one because there's a ton of leaves in this puddle. So I had an idea to sort of, you know, I think fall leaves fallen in a puddle is very Seattle in a way. So I wanted to get a shot focusing on the leaves with the Space Needle like silhouette in the background. And then I wanted a shot with the Space Needle in focus with sort of the leaves blurred out in the foreground. And so I think these two shots work really well, especially side by side. I think it tells a big story of Seattle. And this is a shot, this is like later on, like probably like an hour later in the day. I walked to a totally different area and I'm still pretty far from the Space Needle, but get this really cool reflection with this cone sort of in the foreground. And I actually love this shot a lot just because it feels like well balanced, and you think the cone's the subject, but then once you look closer, you sort of see the Space Needle. So the upcoming shot was a little bit of a challenge because I wanted to get a shot with the fountain and the Space Needle in the background, and just trying to figure out how I wanted to expose for it because I wanted to I kind of wanted to expose for the Space Needle, but then I was overexposing. So then what I ended up doing was doing another handheld long exposure with this fountain and that plane moving in the background, and got this shot, which I actually absolutely love. It's very ethereal. I normally don't overexpose images like that, but I feel like the image is ethereal and gives it a very futuristic look, which is sort of what the Space Needle kind of is. And then I made my way over to Cary Park, I believe is what it's called, and it's a very popular location for seeing a view of Seattle and like the Seattle Bay or whatever it is that they call it. So I rented a 70-200 for the esports events that I was shooting. So this was pretty much a perfect location to use it. And I did end up shooting around here a lot and getting a lot of different frames. But I kind of only came away with editing one of them. This is one of those shots where it feels very touristy and I didn't really care for it that much. So I kind of just try to edit it, you know, a little bit uniquely and whatnot. And so this park is beautiful, but again, it's a very common spot, and you can actually see Mount Rainier in the background, but if it's a clear day, but this day was definitely too cloudy. So now I've made my way more towards the waterfront of Seattle, and my GoPro at this point was running out of battery or SD card space. I don't quite remember. So I don't show all the shots that I got in this area. After the next couple clips at the end of the video, I do show the photos that didn't make the video because I wasn't recording on my GoPro. But I got this shot here with this man walking down the stairs. You know, really simple, nothing too crazy. I kind of like the first one a little bit more because you kind of don't see his face. But I got some shots here of the Space Needle. They are actually my favorites, and again, they'll be at the end of the video. And I think this is the last location that I recorded on my GoPro because my battery or SD card, I think it was the battery. I think that battery ended up dying at this point. And so, thank you guys for watching, number one. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. I know those POV videos don't always get the most views or the most, time watched, but I do enjoy doing them, kind of for a personal reason. I get to sort of live back these moments, live back these shots that I took on this trip. I am planning on releasing a zine of all of this Seattle stuff. I came away with like 80 images that I was pretty happy with, and so I'm gonna sort of come out with the cheap zine, get somebody to print it, and just make it really basic. So keep an eye out on my Instagram for that. I'll definitely, post about it once it's ready. And this is the last photo you'll see in this video from the GoPro, but now I'm gonna show you some photos that I got from the rest of the day. This was later on in the day. Love this shot. I love these two shots just because of the negative space, the contrast, the shadows, the highlights. This is one of my favorite photos I got on the day as well, just because it was really soft lighting in the background. This is the photo with the Space Needle that I absolutely loved. Another Space Needle shot, which I absolutely loved, very Americana feeling. And then some other basic shots, but I'm gonna end the video after these photos come up on screen. So I just want to say one more time, thank you for watching. Let me know down in the comments which photo is your favorite. And overall, Seattle was really fun. I really enjoyed it. The city itself, compared to New York, surprised me. It has a lot of good things. I do like the amount of greenery. I do love the architecture. I actually think the city downtown itself is really, really beautiful. The sort of drug problem surprised me, and the homeless problem surprised me. It actually feels a lot worse than New York does, which is very surprising. But that's just the unfortunate situation that's going on over there. But besides that, the people were really nice, the food was really good, and I came away with some photos that made me really happy. And so again, one more time, thanks for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at @TheJohnFernandez, and I will see you guys in the next video. I picked up a new camera, which I will be making a video about for my next video. So thanks, guys. Peace out.